ideas, we'll have a studio recording and we will take it forward like that. So don't worry.
No issues.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Tell me.
So it's now already recording. Let's move ahead.
Okay. So stop the recording once. I now figuring out that I have my work written here. I should have had the paper copy, right? Just a moment, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Just a moment.
Whichever, let's just go straight out, one after another.
One after the other? Okay.
Yep.
So, should I start with the introduction of you as it is? Or we are going to have a session and we'll be moderating? Should I give that brief? Because we don't know what are we actually going to do in the future.
Yeah, so let's not focus more on the introduction. You can create an introduction on your own separately and get it studio recorded, and that we can keep it as an add-on, which we'll add to every session that we have.
Yeah, so I'll start with your introduction first. What do you say? No?
Okay, my introduction is going to be a little bit portion of the whole program. So we can keep that recorded for once and we do not have to repeat it every time.
Every time. So you want me to start straight away with the question?
Yeah, that will give us an idea of how the questions sound and how the answers sound.
Answers are going to be good only. Okay. So tell me, Mr. Damani, I mean, Anand Damani, you tell yourself about, you know, that you are here in this space. You're not a God man, you're not a guru. You claim yourself to be a unique and a different person, you know, gifted person rather. So tell me your journey so far and who is the real Anand Damani, you know? How have you traveled to be the Damani that, you know, Anand Damani, what you are today?
I would say my journey is now progressing towards becoming a normal, simple human being from wherever society has placed me so far now. Society has given me lots of degrees, lots of designations, lots of different roles that I have played, and they have defined it that it is a successful way of playing those roles. I started out as a bright student. My teachers always used to tell me, you should work hard, you can do a lot. And then I used to wonder, no, I don't want to work hard. I'm happy the way I am.
Probably you were gifted, right? You're gifted with the genius intelligence, and then you didn't have to work hard. And you were, again, that was a gift. How many people do get to do that? I mean, I get that as a gift.
That is what you think yourself to be, and then you think you are some gifted person, you're going to do something good, and then you have all high aspirations, and things started like that with me. And I started my academic career. I did my CA, I got a national rank. It all went well. Then I started my business also started doing well. At the back of the mind, I had always been trying to find out why am I existing on this planet? What is it that I'm supposed to be doing here? Why is it that I am at times happy and at times I'm not happy? So those are the questions that ran in parallel right from my childhood days. I had a very interesting story when I was in class 3. Our school trip, they had organized an excursion which took us to Kanyakumari. And when we were going to the Vivekananda rock, when the kids were being pulled from the boat onto the rock, there are two people who stand on the rock. They pull each person and throw him into the rock. And the jetty is rocking very dangerously. While my turn come, one person caught my hand, the other person missed me, and I was dangling in between the boat and the rock for about a second. And then this one person pulled me over since I was a very small child. And then he scolded the other person, oh, be careful, you should synchronize and pull together. And they just started pulling the next child and next child. And here I was left wondering, just one more second and I would be right between the rock and the boat and crushed.
Yeah.
And when we went around the rock, I was amazed by the very size of the rock. It was too big As a child, I moved around, and then at the end, when we went into the meditation room, life got scared. I just couldn't see anything. It was so dark out there and so airy, so silent. And then when we moved back, I was left wondering what in the world would one person who would travel, swim to that rock, go to that rock and sit on that rock and meditate for 3 days without food, without water. What would that guy be wanting to do? So that really excited me, and I started reading a lot about Vivekananda, about the Ramakrishna mission, and started devouring as much information I could get. And then we had in our history lessons, the Greek history, where I read about Socrates, who was consigned to drink poison, and in the big hall where all the Greek elite, Athens was supposed to be the greatest of civilization at those times, and then he, in the presence of all, drank poison, and he knew that he will die. Those sort of things really confused me. What is it that the human being is trying to be? So that nagging kept on pushing me. I went to lots of courses, lots of gurus, lots of reading. I latched on to internet very early, started reading a lot on the internet, trying to connect to more people, listening to TED Talks, understanding the science. And in Nagaraj, I found one person who could claim that, okay, right, this is how human beings are supposed to live, and I am living like that. You can check me out, you can check me whichever way you want, and this is what life is about. So I'm now trying to follow his footsteps and live like a simple human being in a very happy manner.
So you say you're simple, right?
Yeah.
And you've called yourself gifted, and I'm again coming back to that, sorry. But, you've seen luck favoring you, that stone and that rock event, and suddenly you just emerged out of an emergency situation. So what do you call that? Again, a gift of life? It's luck. It's God's, it's destiny, right? God just has his hand on you. What do you call that?
Okay, so now,
and not everybody is so gifted as you. So, and not, I mean, of course, there should be some incredible talent as well, where, from a gifted, intellect to your hard work, you've come this long way. But to a person who does not have this intellect, who does not have this incredible talent like you, who would, God also hasn't been very kind to that person, how do you think that person can sail through?
okay, so now you are using many words which we need to understand. When you say gifted, what do you think is a gift? A gift is something which we give to somebody without any expectations. God has created human beings. God was not expecting human beings to do anything for him. God had all that he wants. So human beings as a species are in the quest to understand things. When you say somebody is gifted and somebody is not gifted, how authentically do you know what is a gift?
Sorry to interrupt, Mr. Damani, but I don't say that, you said you are gifted, right? So and I'm very sure that you are gifted, because you're gifted with talent, you're gifted with an enormous amount of, this enterprise, which is running behind you. Your system is working for you, whether you work for the next, 5 years or not, the system will work for you. So you don't have to, work for yourself. Probably you can say, Mamta, I created this for myself. I created this system which will work for me. So probably you worked for it, I don't deny. But in first place, you were gifted with the talent. God was kind to you. So how many people on this earth are kind? I mean, God has not been kind to all of us. He hasn't been generous to all of us. So, you have been on this lucky charms and lucky bells of God. So what about people like me or the layman next door who God hasn't been very kind? So what about their gift? Are you talking like, I once saw this episode where Amal Clooney says George Clooney gifted to 13 people, 13 of his friends. He called them home and said, gifted $1 million each in the suitcase to 13 friends. So, probably God has just a few 13 like you who has been gifted with all. What about the rest? What about the 14th like me who's left?
To understand what you are as a human being and or what me as a human being, we need to understand what a human being is.
Okay.
Gift is something what you call, the society has named things like that. We have to go way back to understand what reality is, what a gift is, what work is, and everything will start from that. So once we need understand what is a human being. A human being is a union of the soul and the physical body. The physical body takes birth in a womb of a lady, and the physical body takes shape slowly. If you look at stem cells, you will understand that all these cells are the same in the human body. They go into the child and then into the fetus, and they identify which organ is not there, and that cell becomes that organ. So that is how the human body is formed. And from that human body, when the soul is there in the human body, it is together as a human being, they perform various actions. So the soul is a permanent, complete saturated atom, which our Nagaraji has described very clearly. And that soul in every human being is the same. That is the permanent thing that is existing on this planet. And that is the soul that understands. It is the soul that knows things. It is the soul that experiences those things. And as a soul, you and me and every other person on this planet, all the 7.7 billion are the same. That is how when I say I am just an ordinary human being, I am a soul residing in this body. This body is made up of the genes that my parents gave me. So the genetic part of it is the physical part. The physical part is at a lower level and the soul is at the higher level. And how the soul and the body interact is the science that I have understood. Once I understand that science, now I am resolved and I'm very happy interacting with every human being, understanding that his soul and my soul are the same. It can hardly be any different.
So you're definitely not an ordinary man for any ordinary ones to understand. But okay, you're talking about soul and you're talking about wisdom and all that, the space that you are in today. So what do you think has been your takeaway from the journey so far that you have had? I mean,
I have understood that whatever you learn, you have to practice in life. If you are not able to practice it, that means your understanding is not enough.
okay.
You still don't believe it enough. So the basic nature of every human being is to know and to believe. So these are the two important aspects which every human being has to understand. If he doesn't believe something, then he cannot know it. And if he doesn't know something, he cannot believe it.
Wow.
So the inquisitive nature of every human being forces him to test his belief. So the belief system comes to us from the culture, from the religion, from the tradition, from the society. That is the difference between the human being and everything else that is there on this planet. On this planet, at the moment, there are four kinds of stuff. One is the material world, where you have all the matter, the elements, the chemicals, and all iron, magnesium, gold, silver, all those metals and all things. The second part is the plant kingdom. You have more of the material world and less of the plant kingdom. The plant kingdom has all different varieties of plants, trees, shrubs, everything. They are all having the cycle of seed, seed to tree, tree to seed, seed to tree. So this material world just exists. The plant kingdom, along with being in existence, they choose, they nourish, they grow, they decay. And then through the mechanism of seed and tree, and then from tree to seed and again seed to tree, they continue to exist. As a next evolutionary process, we got the animal kingdom. Animals were free to roam about. Plants are tied to the place they have to be. From the animals, they have to exist, they grow, they decay, and they have another thing, freedom to move around and freedom to live. They wanted to live. Plants don't want to live, they just exist. Animals had an added faculty of wanting to live. And then the fourth species is the Homo sapiens. We want to do all these three. We want to exist, we want to grow, we will decay, our body will decay, we want to live, and we want to understand. So the understanding is more important to the human being than being alive, than existing, than just being. The need to understand that led Vivekananda to swim from this land onto the rock and stay there on that rock without food, water, shelter. In the sea is very rough out there. If you've been there, you can understand it's very, very rough.
Yeah.
And he wanted to understand. He wanted to find out his purpose in life. So the purpose of understanding has been there with humanity all through the ages. I am grateful to each and every human being who has lived on this planet before me as a human being and who has done his bit to improve the understanding. It is because of science that I am able to totally grasp the atomic structure of the soul. People talked about the soul hundreds of years ago, maybe centuries ago. We have in the Vedanta system people talking about souls. But at that time, common people did not understand what atomic structure is. Now, as a simple student, everybody today knows, okay, every atom has a nucleus in the center, has electrons going around in circles. In the first circle, you have 2 particles. In the second circle, you have 8 particles. In the next circle, you have 18 particles. And the next circle, you have 32 particles. So the atomic structure is all well known. So now when Nagaraji could see the soul, he could identify, oh, look, what is the difference? The difference between the normal other atoms and the soul is, in the soul, you have only 1 particle in the center. Instead of having 32 for so many particles, as much electrons, you need to have same number of protons for an atom to be stable. But as far as the soul is concerned, there is just 1 particle in the center. And there are 60 particles going around in 4 circles. So that, and science has now analyzed and invented that, okay, the electrons that are going around, they do not have weight because the speed at which they are traveling, they become weightless. So in the soul, what has happened is, all the 60 particles they are going around, they, as a collective effort, they lift the weight of the single particle also. So the soul becomes full of energy, it becomes permanent, it can never destroy it, it can never form with another atom, it can not take in more electrons, not give out more electrons, it becomes a permanent thing. So that is the soul, and because it becomes permanent, it has the power to understand, it has the power to experience. So this is a very path-breaking finding that Nagaraj had, and given all the science background that everyone had, it was easy to understand, okay, now we are not talking of some soul that is unknown, we are talking of soul that exists and I can understand, I can visualize it, I can explain to others, and they can also think and visualize about it.
Right. So truly, your knowledge for science and life is incredible. I had something else in my mind to ask you. There has been a paradigm shift in your focus, from entity and entitlement to spirituality and, looking for humanity in a greater aspect of life. So what do you think the reason behind the shift? Of course, you spoke about, Mr. A. Nagaraj, but how did you actually break the bubble, the bubble in which we are still living, but you're just out in the outer hemisphere, living a free life, oblivious of all of us. So how do you tend to do that? And how did you really break?
Just, it's a simple fact. When I realized that I am a soul, I am going to take birth again in a different form, then again in a different form, and that is going to happen. So
Yeah.
as a human being, what can I do? Can
Hmm.
I create an atmosphere where the new children that are born, they can understand this reality,
Hmm.
live happily, and
Hmm.
live in a human way? Till this
Hmm.
moment on this planet Earth, there is no
Hmm.
society, there is
Hmm.
no group of people, there is no
Hmm.
place where a person can live in a human way without
Hmm.
doing inhuman things. All the material world, all the entitlements, all the gifted things that the society calls me, they are all making and forcing people to do inhuman things. So,
Oh.
for my simple selfish interest, I want to work my way and try to create a small group of 2 families, 4 families, 10 families where they are living in a human way. They are
Hmm.
not doing any inhuman things. They are
Hmm.
not damaging the earth. They are living a sustainable way. All the GDP growth that these countries have brought after the industrial revolution, now the earth is so sick.
Yeah.
People have to think of planning going, staying in the moon or in the Mars, or and all those planets are on the revolution track. It is going to be lakhs of years before moon becomes rich enough for human beings to be there. We have this rich planet, the flora, the fauna, the material world. When everything was right, only then man evolved.
Correct.
Having
Oh,
evolved,
well.
he went into a wrong direction and he started damaging the very things that were necessary for him to exist. Now we are saying there is climate change, this earth is not safe.
Mhm.
If we continue these things, another 10 years, 20 years, the earth will not be fit to live. So then where else will I go if there are
Right.
no human beings? So for my soul to adopt a body, I need human beings. They are going to decide to have a child, and when they have a fetus in the womb, only then I'll be able to go and adopt it.
Right. So you have a larger vision, you know, you just don't have a vision for yourself. You have the vision for the entire planet.
Yep.
So that's wonderful to know. And I just hope there are many more to follow you. So what would you say to the layman like me who's still working, for life, where life and livelihood is the primary reason that I wake up every morning and then go back, hitting the bed. And again, life follows the next day the same way. So for laymen like me, in a few words, what would you say? This is the way of life. So what would you call that way of life?
What you're doing is perfectly all right. Everybody is going to be doing that only. You are going to be doing things that you think are right.
Hmm.
So you have the soul right inside you, which tells you what is right and what is not right.
Hmm.
Understanding that your soul has so far now is the one that is going to decide and explain to you what is right and what is wrong.
Hmm.
And if anything that you do is damaging either yourself or hurting someone who is close to you, who is staying with you,
Hmm.
or hurting the earth, then you know that is not right.
Hmm.
It's that simple. You don't need to be a PhD expert to know this. All this
Hmm.
academic education and all this. This all the whole purpose of education was to help you understand the reality.
Hmm.
So they gave only limited vision to the reality. Now, as a layman, I'm able to see the reality from many angles. So
Hmm.
now, if I take your case, you get up every day morning.
I beg to differ. You're not a layman, so you change the word for yourself. Yeah.
So when you get up, you decide on how to be productive,
Yeah.
how to be useful,
Hmm.
how to belong to people, how to
Hmm.
love other people, how to respect other people, how to be respected by other people.
True.
So whenever you start interacting with people, there is one vision through which you look at it, and
Hmm.
then there are other visions with which other people look at the same things.
Hmm.
So as you become more and more aware, you are able to see the perceptions of different people for the same stuff.
Hmm.
Once you are aligned, everything is bliss and fine.
You're absolutely right. You know, that alignment is one thing which takes years and probably many lives, I would say. Now, probably, Mr. Damani, for you, I was just talking to a friend and I was telling, you're going to be doing this. And he said, who is Mr. Damani? I said, he's achieved all in his life and probably, and he says, yeah, that's why he's now talking about spirituality. I'm sorry. I mean, that was just a random statement from her. And she said, look, he has things taking care of himself and he's done enough. So tomorrow he need not worry how his office is going to function, what is he going to eat tomorrow, who's going to pay his bills, because he's taken care of all that. So for him to talk of spirituality, that's no big deal. But what about people like us? How are we able to talk about it? See, you have taken entity, entitlement, and now to spirituality, a beautiful turn, which is the usual way. Now, what you are talking and what you are telling is, you're the right way, and then that's spirituality. And probably, are you wanting to say that that's how you achieve what you want to achieve better? What is it that you're trying to say?
I'm just trying to help you understand. Okay, now as a human being, you are a human being, I am a human being.
First, tell me about that remark. What would you say about that remark? You can afford to spend time on spirituality, on wisdom, on this. So, what would you say that no, anybody can do it, not just me?
I look at a normal human being. What does he need? Let's try to understand. Let's
Okay.
try to understand what a human being needs. Is that what you are trying to come to?
Probably yes.
Okay. So now let's talk of Mamta Phumra as a lady. She
Okay.
has certain needs, right?
Yeah.
She is having two entities. One is her physical body and the soul, right?
True. All
So
of us have.
now for the physical body, she needs nourishment. She needs to take care of it. She needs to keep it healthy.
Hmm.
That is only possible for her, the soul, for her soul to experience. So
Hmm.
if the body is sick, the
Hmm.
soul cannot experience good things.
Hmm.
So when we talk of nourishment, when we talk of clothing, when we talk of shelter, there is the n number of needs that Mamta has. If I try to give her, if you are able to eat maybe 2 apples, 3 apples, if I gave you another apple after that, and another apple, and another apple, by the seventh apple, you will say, no, no, I hate apples. So all the physical goods, all the physical needs, they are all quantifiable. They are very limited. They are clear. The whole premise of economics, which has been started by Adam Smith, is based on a fallacy. The fallacy that there is scarcity, there are limited resources to take care of unlimited wants. That is the basis of all the economics that the human society at large, the world over, is practicing. Now we need to look at nature. In nature, there is only abundance. There is no scarcity at all. You plant one seed, you do nothing, you get a tree, and that tree gives 1,000 apples. Every apple seed on this planet is capable of producing 1,000 apples. And where do you find people to eat all those apples? All the animals, all the monkeys, everybody put together will not be able to eat those apples. The problem in reality, in existence, is in society, we are preventing other people from using those products. The whole concept of ownership, that is the crazy concept that human beings invented. In reality, what is wastage? Wastage is not allowing somebody to use the material. That is what is genuinely wastage. Because nature will automatically decay the apple. You can't keep that apple permanently. Nature has its own laws. It will get decayed. It will go into the soil. The tree absorbs the nutrients from the soil. The soil doesn't cry, oh, why are you taking my nutrients? Because the soil knows the tree will take the nutrients and then it will process them. It will make them into good fruits. They'll add more value to the nutrients. And then the animals will eat it, and then they will shit, and that shit is going to be making me fertile. So the nature, everything is cyclic. The human intellect has been wrong in understanding the exact state of nature. So now coming to yourself, you have some physical needs. So those physical needs are going to come from whatever is there on the earth. There is no human being who can create something that is not on the earth and use it for your physical needs. Okay, so once now today you have the body, and say let us take an calculation, you are going to live for another 50 years, another 60 years. So one day you need 8 apples. So for 60 years, 60 into 365 into this is the amount of apples that you'll need. This is the amount of shirts you'll need. So all that you can quantify. That is one very small portion of your needs. And the human being has only understood those needs, and he's crazily running after them. What he has not understood is your needs of your soul. Your soul needs knowledge. Your soul needs love. Your soul needs belonging. Your soul needs affection. Your soul wants to be productive. Your soul wants to be respected. And these are the needs that you cannot measure. You can't say, okay, give me this much of love and then I'll be satisfied. No, keep giving me love as much as you can. You start respecting me, you can respect me more and more and more. Still, I'll enjoy being respected. And you never get satiated with respect. Just like after a 6th apple, you can't have the 7th apple. With respect, it's not like that. So that is the bonding, the connection. That is the need that you need. And that need can only be fulfilled by another human being. There is no way anything on the planet, any material, the best of cars, you can't have a Porsche car and be happy. You will be happy when your husband smiles at you. So the value of that smile is invaluable. So that is what is connections. That is what is reality, and that is what is leading life is about. So that way, I'm very, very happy that I'm surrounded by people who really love me, and I love all those people. So that is the wealth that I'm generating.
So you are saying, Mr. Damani, that, sorry. Please go ahead.
The material wealth is required for my body to sustain, for the needs of my family to be sustained. So anybody who has less than that should first improve his skills, improve his work, improve his status, so that he is able to take care of the physical needs. The physical needs need to be taken care of. I'm not saying you just ignore the physical needs, start fasting or start doing this, and that is not the way to live. See, your physical, only your body needs are there. Your soul doesn't need anything physical, right? As a human being, your soul and your body both are going to work. So you have two people working and only the body consuming. So you have more or less.
Yeah.
So you have more power, you have more energy, you have more thoughts, you have more things available with you. That is how nature has made you. So there is no way a person cannot meet his needs if the other people do not prevent him from doing it. The earth is enough, it's full, it's having enough material to feed another 7 billion people. Even if there are going to be 14 billion people, the earth is safe. Only thing is, between humans is the problem.
Right. So you are saying, get out every day, work for yourself, satisfy all your physical needs, all the tangibles that you want to have, or probably do not, or by all fair means. That's what you mean to say, right? So your physical need is, that's how everyone would ideally like to have in an ideal world. Exactly. So that's an hypothesis. Let's keep it aside. I know that it works for many of us. What about for the people who want the whole world? Their materialistic desire is endless. They do not ever quench their thirst, even despite the 7th apple is also given to them, and they want the whole apple. What is meant for you, what is meant for somebody else, the neighbors, the relatives. He wants it all. Do you think? How many corporates do we know? They are taking the business of so many small enterprises, and these small enterprises are dying. So what would you tell to them? I mean, what would you advise to all of them?
Okay. So now, if there is a person who is not able to know of his needs, okay,
Hmm.
he wants all the apples, still more, still more, still more.
Hmm.
He has all the liberty to be dissatisfied in his life. That's up to him. What can I
Hmm.
do about it?
But in his dissatisfaction, he is destroying a part of the world, right? And there is not one individual. See, one man's food is getting another man's poison. I mean, we know so many corporates that is doing that.
So
So,
let's go slow. When you
okay.
are saying that every person whose needs are not known to him, okay, there is a person. When you say a corporation is owned by some few people. A
Hmm.
corporation by itself is nothing. It's
Yeah.
actually a figment of imagination of humanity. When you say a
Hmm.
corporation, you are talking to some people who are there,
Hmm.
right? If those
Hmm.
people are not going to get satisfied, it is their choice. They can always be dissatisfied.
Hmm.
They'll never find happiness. That shouldn't prevent me from being happy.
Okay. So you are telling that let's start and begin at, at our end first, and
My,
probably the world will.
I don't say probably. There are only two solutions. Either the world will explode or everybody will become happy. There is no middle way on that aspect.
Okay.
The
Right.
possibility is always there. If a nuclear warfare happens,
Hmm.
it can happen. Like you said, if that man had dropped my hand,
Hmm.
that could have happened. So what? My soul would not be destroyed. My body would have been washed away. It's okay. I would have taken birth somewhere else and I would have grown up somewhere else. I would have learned those things there. It's that simple.
So probably our planet is just waiting at the behest of any luck.
It is no luck. See, this is again where you need to know. There is nothing known as luck.
Hmm.
Everything is as per order. In nature, everything is in order. If that person has to hold my hand, he can lift me here. That guy was strong enough. One of the guys could lift me. So when you try understanding everything, there are all universal rules. There is nothing which is absurd. There is nothing which is random. Everything is as per law. The only problem is we have to understand the law.
Right. So moving on to my next question would be, so uh, probably you answered quite a bit in this, but if I may again ask you, what would you advise to the people who aim for the materialistic world? So much so that they even tend to get, the tangible wealth to the likes of the sun and the moon. So probably you answered quite a lot, but then what would you tell to the people who have endless desires, who just who do not believe in the desire what the soul wants, who just do not believe in the intangibles of life? What is that one line you would say to that person? Hey guy, you're just wasting your time.
No,
What
no.
would you say? What would you tell him?
I would certainly like him to really question the very thought that you are saying. Okay, I have that endless desires. I would certainly like to ask him. Okay, let me understand what your endless desires are.
The tangible endless desires I'm talking about, very, very precisely.
Okay, all the tangible stuff. If he can understand what the tangible stuff is,
Hmm.
everything is made up of atoms, right?
Hmm.
Everything has its life. As a human being, if you understand, okay, your body has a very limited life.
Hmm.
Once you have the epiphany of death, then all the desires will become very clear. You should read that book, The Five Regrets of People Who Are Dying.
Oh, right.
It's an amazing story